want this to be a discussion.
We can do a couple questions quickly at the end too.
Yeah.
So the whole idea of this is like to just do like total mind calisthenics and get you guys like just thinking. It's very fast paced. We've got 20 slides, one topic per slide, and we have 20 seconds to get the idea across before the slide changes. And it's automated, so we can't pause.
And
this is very so this is exciting, and basically what we tried to do is pull together all like the cool stuff that we've been seeing. We included some buzzword alerts, so you'll see those kind of sparse in there, and some of those are like just fun words that are like popping up that we hear people say. Other stuff is more industry terms that we're hearing. So yeah, let's get started.
Number that you put in and say, Matt just arrived at the Reynolds Journalism Institute. Phone stack is this new trend. We tried it at our office. You go out to eat, everyone's on their phones, and you want to have a real conversation. So now this trend is that everyone puts their phones face down in the middle of the table. The person who can't resist the temptation and reaches for their phone has to pick up the bill for the entire table.
And it's kind of a game too, so it's kind of
We
fun.
managed to pull it off without anybody pulling a phone, but it's hard. So this is one of our buzzwords, upload. Obviously it's pretty standard, mobile upload, but it's really interesting when you think about it. We went from this culture where we're developing photos after the fact to where we're uploading digital albums, from our digital camera, to now it's instant gratification. People want to know where you are, what you're doing, who you're with, where you're at, right then, right now. So this idea of mobile upload. Photo Blocker is a cool device that was created by Norte, this beer company in Europe. Basically, if you're out at night and maybe a little bit too drunk, this beer cooler has a flash sensor on it, so when someone goes to try to take a picture of you, it senses that and it sends out another photo or another flash to block that picture, and this is what the picture would look like. It just kind of overexposes the photo. Waze is a mobile driving application similar to Google Maps in that it provides directions and navigation, but a little bit different in that it crowdsources information from other users that have the application. So you can get information about where wrecks are, where there's traffic, based on other people that have the application open at that time. So it's pretty cool, crowdsourced navigation.
Gesture control, we're all familiar with this from games, right? So the Wii and the Kinect, you use your arms and your body to control everything. Well, the new idea is that this will be embedded into new devices, and we're starting to see this in TVs already, where you can swipe through channels and movies or whatever. But look for this in other devices as well in your home and even like out in the mass marketplace. Instead is a new app that allows you to find ways to donate to the causes that you care about. So instead of spending $4 on a latte every morning, you can say, I'm going to give that $4 to X, Y, or Z donation choice, whatever.
It helps you find charities that match up with your
so
your
it's very cool, and you can connect that to all your social media networks. Sonic Notify. Sonic Notify is a new way to use audio recognition, and a lot of marketers are starting to pick up on this, but it could be used in a lot of other ways as well. So basically it uses a high frequency that's embedded over an audio track, instead of Shazam where it just maps an audio track. And then anytime you come near it, if this technology is embedded, it will pick up on that high frequency and send like content to your phone. Topshop is a retail store that started using this augmented reality mirror. So you are able to basically virtually try on outfits before you actually go in to try it on. So you can see if it even looks right and flatters your body before you have to go in and like take the trouble to try it on. And they're having a lot of success with that. People really like it. Pre-play. Pre-play is basically a new app that allows you to make real-time predictions about games. So football games, baseball, etc. What's really cool about this, though, is the concept of being able to make real-time predictions. So think about this in other contexts, elections, if you could make real-time county, or think about in other contexts even like, whatever.
So second screen is this idea that while you're watching TV, almost everyone has some sort of mobile device with them. A lot of times we're now seeing tablets, and people are using this to get additional information about what it is that they're watching on TV. There's even applications out there now that can pick up, based on the audio frequency that through the microphone, can tell what TV show you're watching, pick up on that, and give you additional information about it. This is another buzzword. It's SOLO-MO, stands for Social Local Mobile Search. So this is the idea that now instead of using 1 or 2 parameters to search for something, now we're searching for things on our device, we're on the go, it can tell where we are, it can tell, based on our social network, tips and information, maybe from anonymous or from friends. Local, it can show us where we are, deals or things like that around us. So that's SOLO-MO. Showrooming is this idea that when you go into a store, now we have so much technology on our phone that we're not just looking at the information that's available to us in the store. We're pointing our phone using image recognition, finding out where we can get it for cheaper, what the customer reviews are of it, and a lot of times people are finding things in store, seeing if they like it, and then they're going elsewhere to buy. Music Pound is similar to Bump. If you're familiar with this application, you bump to get contact information shared, but instead of sharing contact information, you're actually comparing your music library. So you can bump your phone, see what genres, what artists, what songs you have in common, what you have differences in, and maybe where you can overlap some. So it's pretty cool. New application. Music Pound. Okay, so Chevy did this cool application for the Super Bowl where they're trying to engage consumers not only during the game and during commercials, but just when they had some downtime. So they had a lot of content on here, and then throughout the game, if you matched up a license plate or something like that, you could win. They were giving away, I think, like 20 different Chevy cars, up to $100,000 in cash, and it was pretty successful for Chevy.
So Fan the Flame was a promotion that Mini did, and basically if you liked their Facebook page, a flame would shoot up to a rope that was tied to a car, and if your Facebook broke that rope, if it was the last one to burn the rope, you won the car. So it was a really cool social integration that tied into real life, to something physical and that was happening in real life. Mass mingling is another buzzword alert. So basically everyone goes to concerts, right, and you go and you meet up with your friends, but then there's also tons of other people there who have shared interests because you're at the same concert or other event. And the mass mingling is the idea that you can go and you can mingle with these people virtually without maybe necessarily meeting them, or then you can also meet up with them as well. Shazam. So everyone's familiar with Shazam for tagging music to figure out who the artist is or get the lyrics. But Shazam's actually being used now to tag commercials and different broadcast mediums, so you can provide extra content or direct them to a new website or engage with the consumer on other levels. So think about this for broadcast television, right, in the news even. Thought-controlled computing. This is something that we just watched on TED. A woman just gave a presentation about it. So basically, you can wear a headband now, and it uses your brain waves and electrical currents in your brain to control an app on your tablet. So you don't even have to touch anything. You can measure your focus, and basically you learn all about how your brain works by doing it. This is our last one. The Like Belt uses NFC technology to virtually like things in the world. And how do you do that? You pelvic thrust at it. So this is kind of just a funny, off-the-wall one, but it uses NFC, which is a new technology.
And definitely go watch the video for this, because
it's
it is
really
very
funny.
entertaining. Yeah, it's pretty funny. But yeah, you can like a wall or something, but it's pretty cool.
Really ridiculous.
So that's Pechakucha. It's kind of cool. We just want to share it with you because it wasn't a presentation style that we were familiar with when we were in college, but it's kind of a cool interactive way to kind of get people thinking and that type of thing. But now we want to talk about mobile first. So we kind of touched on this a little bit, gave you a little preface as to what we want to talk about, but really the idea is that now everyone has a mobile device on them. Some of us have 2, 3 mobile devices on us at any given time.
Or 5, like Titan.
Yeah. So it's this idea that the first place that we're getting this information is our mobile device, so why not design for that first? Why shouldn't our content be going to if it's going to the mobile device first, why shouldn't it be formatted that way, and then go to the web next, and then print, and then all these other mediums? Amanda and I, working in kind of the mobile space and the mobile industry, we're starting to see that a lot more companies are starting to adapt to this kind of mindset, and they're starting to see the value in providing customers with information on their mobile devices first.
And I guess just to kind of set up this whole discussion as well, like at least when I was in school, it was a big conversation at the Missourian to move to publishing web first. So before like my junior, senior year, everything was about the print edition, and that switched. They changed their whole newsroom strategy to be web first. So we're seeing companies, at least now, thinking about their strategy in a strategical way, how to get their content into hands for their mobile consumers, because everyone's accessing stuff mobily. Even if it's not on a smartphone, feature phones as well have a lot of capabilities, even if it's SMS, which is, a lot of people think, oh, who cares about text messaging? But even if it's just a heads up like, hey, you can do this, did you know?
And then the other cool thing, kind of tying into like one of our buzzwords, so social, local, mobile, that solo-mo idea, is this idea that our phone can give us more information based on where we are, based on who we know, what's around us. So that's something that we think that not only brands and clients that we have should be looking at, but something that journalists and people who are putting out content, publishing content, they should be aware that that technology is there and they should be utilizing it. So
and making money off of it.
Yeah, exactly. So solo-mo is kind of a new thing that's coming up, but I think the idea has always been there. We know that our phone can tell where we are, so when we Google something, we expect that the most relevant things around us should come up first. So that's how we see content publishing and just the journalism industry in general kind of moving towards that model, and I think it can be very helpful to us as we try to adapt to new technology.
So just to kind of gauge everyone and just kind of go a little bit further into the context of mobile. Everyone here has a phone, I'm guessing. Cell phone.
Smartphone, hopefully.
How are some of the ways you guys use your phone now?
Tweet.
So you use apps, you use
I use apps.
that, the Twitter app.
My GPS.
Do you guys primarily use apps? Do you use mobile web? Do you interact with any brands on SMS or?
I use mobile web to like fill in the gaps when I have like 10 minutes between class, like 5 to 10 minutes, I'm not doing anything. It's a good gap filler.
Okay. So what we're seeing now is the application has kind of been the standard for the mobile industry, since the smartphone really took off. What we're seeing now is that the app may not be the best way to interact with clients or with consumers for a couple of reasons. One, there's a barrier to entry. You have to download the application, you have to wait for it to load, you have to pull it up, you have to find it if you downloaded it previously. And then a lot of times people will open an application one time, check it out, and then close it and never go back to it again. So what we're seeing is that the mobile web, with the way that it's developing, with HTML5 coming out and all these new ways that we can kind of develop the mobile web, that's kind of being turned to as the main focus point. So people can see that instead of having to download something, they can just Google it, be taken right to the mobile website. And a lot of times these mobile websites can have an app layover that makes it look and feel and interact like it's an app. So there's kind of coming a blurring of the lines between apps and mobile web. And obviously the accessibility of the mobile web makes it a much more viable.
Yeah, and from an investment standpoint, so if you're looking at the business side of it, if you are a publisher and you're thinking, it's expensive to create an app. Once you're outside the university and you have students that will work for free, it's really expensive when you start thinking about a mobile strategy or a whole new platform that you have to publish for. And apps are expensive because there are a lot of different platforms you have to develop for, a lot of different code, a lot of expertise is needed, and that expertise comes at a price. So developing for mobile web is a little different because as long as the phone has a browser, you can develop for browsers instead of platforms and operating systems, which is a little bit more cost effective. Yes, there is still some expertise and there's still some cost involved, but it's a lot more cost effective and you get a lot more out of it with the same level of functionality.
Right, and the ability to change that. So, I do the Victoria's Secret Pink mobile site. If we want to go in there and change one of the images or change how the buttons look and feel, we can do that like that. If we wanted to go in and do that for an app, we would have to completely redesign it, and then we'd have to submit it to the App Store, wait for it to be submitted, and then you would all have to re-download it. You would have to go in and update.
Rely on consumers to actually accept that update and actually go through and physically update their app. So that's definitely a downside. The other point I wanted to make here is just kind of thinking about how you used to view phones, right? So 10 years ago or 5 years ago even, you used your phone to call somebody or send a text message. Now, people really rely on their phones for everything. So the first thing I do in the morning, my phone wakes me up. Then I check my email. Then I probably, sometimes depending on how much I want to stay in bed and not get up and get in the shower, get going, I might check my Facebook, I might, follow up on an email while I'm still in bed. Then I get out of the shower and I use it to check the time periodically as I'm getting ready. Then I get in my car and go to work and I use it as my GPS. Like literally it's constantly by my side and I use it for everything. Every day, all day long, I'm constantly looking at that screen. So there's a huge, amount of interaction with your phones, and so for publishers or brands or whoever it is, it's critical to at least be in that space and be aware of it. And when you're thinking about your strategy and how to get your product, whatever it is, into the hands of consumers, like how you can utilize that to your advantage instead of having a huge gaping hole in your points of contact with them.
And then last thing before we go on to the next slide is, along with that, so this, your phone is kind of now turning into our remote to our lives. What we saw, some of the people from our company went to the Consumer Electronics Show a couple months or a month ago in Las Vegas, and what they're seeing now is that 2012 isn't really like the year of this big new technology or this big new product. What they're seeing is that it's the year of integration, of using your phone to connect to your oven and to connect to your refrigerator and connect that to your phone. So seeing all of our technology kind of coming together and being much more in sync with one another. Okay, so how many of you guys have tablets? Does anybody have an iPad or an Android? A couple people?
Obviously these two.
Yeah. So what we look at when we look at tablets, obviously it's a huge part of the mobile strategy and it's something that's growing increasingly rapidly. So what we have to look at when we think about tablets versus mobile phones is what's that experience like for the consumer. And what we found in doing a lot of research and our own personal mindset is that when you're using your mobile device, your phone, you're in a lean forward situation.
So look at the people on their computers right now. You're bent forward and you're typing, right?
Right.
Now
Same
look at
thing.
Amy and Keith. They're both leaned back in their chair.
So this is a perfect example.
They're
Yeah.
leaned back and they're just, hanging out on their tablets.
So
it's
the
not
mobile,
as
the mobile
intense.
phone is like you're on the go, you're lean forward, you're trying to get information right there, right now, you're wanting to
You
get
don't want to
something
wait.
out of it.
You want it the second.
Right, and we're seeing that the tablet is much more of a lean back experience. So when you're using your tablet, you're not as interested in maybe getting that instant gratification of information right away or finding a specific bit of information. You can be browsing or trying out applications. You're not really in that rush that you have when you're using your mobile device.
So when you think about the strategy for a tablet, what's critical is to understand that mindset, right? And so if you're trying to sell your product, regardless if that's a print product that's now being available on a tablet, or if it's a brand and you're trying to sell chips, whatever it is, you need to understand that someone's going to want to know right now. So let's just take chips for example. If you're out in the store, you want to know about those chips right now because you're going to buy them in 5 minutes. If you're at home, you want to see what chips maybe have the best health factors or are the best and fit your lifestyle. So you're going to be sitting back on the couch, maybe just seeing which chips you want to buy next time you go to the grocery store. Maybe add them to a list for the next time you go. And then when you're at the store, you have it on your phone and you want to check it off your list. You want to have that direct utility involved. You're not browsing.
Right. So Maine and I kind of learned about this and understood this mindset, and then we were kind of tasked with investigating retail apps for some of our major clients, Victoria's Secret, JCPenney, and finding out how that experience differs for other retailers. And what we found, we looked at Nordstrom's, we looked at Macy's, Sears,
Walmart,
all of the
Target.
big ones. And it's really interesting how their strategies differ and how different the applications are from a tablet to a mobile device. And it just kind of reinforced this idea.
And even on the news side too, if you look at phones, iPhone applications or Android applications versus a tablet application for CNN even, it's different in the experience. No, you're going to be more focused on breaking news on a phone, or traffic or weather is going to have more prominence versus if you are on an iPad app and you're looking at the daily, it's much more like video content and not breaking news. It's more trends or supplemental information that you're really interested in, or more magazine feel, right?
So that's our take on tablets. So this is kind of what we've been talking about. It's not just about apps anymore, and it's not even just about mobile web anymore. It's about how do you look at all of the platforms that are available through mobile devices, and how do you create a strategy that utilizes all of them, and utilizes them in a succinct way. So a lot of our brands, we're kind of having to rework how we do their strategy because they're providing the same content on all of their platforms. So Victoria's Secret's a good example. Right now, with their mobile web, their app, their SMS, they're all pretty much pushing the same message out through all of these channels. And what we're trying to prove to them is that although maybe a few of your consumers are listening on all these platforms, it's really about engaging with them and what they want out of that platform. So if you're on SMS, you're on the go, you want that information quick, you want your coupons, you want your specials, that type of thing. And then how do you differentiate that when you look at a mobile website versus an app and then the tablets?
Yeah, and kind of going back to this remote control for life. So when you think about all the different mobile platforms that are available, so SMS, mobile web apps, they all have very distinct benefits and drawbacks. So an app is an investment. If you're going to build an app, you need to think about what you're going to be using that app for and realize that it's going to have a lot of maintenance involved. You're going to have to maintain it and update it, and then rely on the consumer to actually act on those updates and actually actively update their phone, right? Mobile web is a little bit more agile and it's a little bit more cost effective. You can update it a little bit more readily. It works across multiple platforms and operating systems. You think about SMS, it's a really good way to get out quick, fast bits of information. If you think about in the news context, it would be a great tool to use for breaking news, right? Who wouldn't want to know if on their way home from work there's an accident that's going to cause an extra hour commute? Or if you're on your way to work, it's even more important, right? Or that your kid's school is closed down. If you get an SMS about that, that'd be incredibly beneficial. And it's something that's such an easy tactic that people just don't even think about anymore because everyone has text messaging, right? It's not the new sexy thing. Everyone talks about apps and smartphones because it's the new sexy thing. But sometimes integrating all these different tools can help provide a really integrated experience that will touch the majority of your user base, whether that's for a newspaper or a television station or for a brand. You don't want to segment and not touch people because they don't have a smartphone. So that's a really important tool. And going back to this idea of the remote control for life, Mobile really is, right? It's going to be how, I mean, it already is for some people, how you turn on your lights and how you activate different products in your home, how you lock your car, different things like that. But it's also how you find out about what's around you. It's how you interact with people that you care about. It's how you find out about everything, right? And so being able to recognize those touch points regardless of who your consumer is and provide the content they need for that moment, that's where mobile comes in. So that's basically the whole idea of it, right?
Yeah. And then she touched on kind of those platforms. It also can get kind of tricky because when you look at like SMS, it's quick bits of information. But then we're having this trouble like, okay, now there's push notifications within apps. So what's the difference there? Are we providing the same content through SMS that we do through push notifications, or is there a difference? In a lot of cases there is, because push notifications can be geofenced. So you can say, if you're in this particular area, I'm going to send you this notification. Whereas if you're in this area, you get a different notification. SMS doesn't have that ability, so you have to send the same information to the same people. It has to be just pushed out.
You can, but it takes a little bit
It's
of
a little bit harder.
heavy lifting to go through the data to figure out who lives where and sort it out. But
yeah. So that was pretty much our big spiel. We wanted to kind of get.
We want to leave lots of time for questions because, I mean, we figured that would be the best way to go.
We did want to call it a few Twitter handles. This is ours. You don't have to follow us if you don't want to. The Trend Train, that's TMA's kind of trend account, so you can go there, and it's the Pecha Kucha stuff, all that stuff we went over. It's just a good place to stay up to date on trends and kind of stay in the know about technology.
It's kind of entertaining, too.
It is really entertaining. And then TMA recruiting. So anytime we have new openings or new positions, before it goes on the web or Amanda and I find out about it, it first goes on this Twitter page. So if you're interested in a job, an internship, something like that with the marketing arm, definitely follow this Twitter handle.
Our lead recruiter posts everything there. So
yeah.
Great. And then one last thing. So everyone's kind of, I mean, the StratCom folks in the room know about agencies and how they kind of work. Matt and I came from more traditional media. I wasn't real familiar with how agencies work. But I just gotta say, it's kind of a rough life. So Matt has a lot of really bad days. I mean, I'll just go ahead and go to the next slide. We captured it all in one day. So not only does he have to deal with untouched models from Victoria's Secret proofs coming through, but he could only get 2 beers from the beer cart one Friday and was very upset about it.
Yeah.
And we keep track of the shit he says at work that
I cropped it out so you don't have to see what I say. But
obviously, what?
We thought this was just kind of funny. I posted this on Twitter, and our lead recruiter came up to me and just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And he's like, "This is the best promotion our agency has had in a year." But it's just kind of funny.
This obviously isn't how everyone's life is, but if you work on the VS Pink account and you're a dude, it's pretty cool. I'm like, every time I turn around, like our desk, like we face away from each other, but like they're really close together. I'll like turn around and it's like always like models on the screen. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, how is this okay?
Market research.
It's kind of funny, but anyway,
that's all we have.
We thought that was funny, but yeah.
So do you guys have any questions for us? You want to know about the marketing arm, mobile first publishing, content, apps, cool stuff?
I have a question. So, specifically in news, what are some of your favorite mobile web news applications? Like I know ProPublica has one. What else do you like?
Honestly, for news, I don't use a lot of mobile web applications.
Yeah.
I use
he looks at stuff on his iPad all the time, and he's always on the daily. Like we'll be at lunch, and he's like, "Look at this video," and I don't have an iPad, so I don't have access to the daily. So that's very cool.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think news is definitely one of the places where I think applications are still pretty prominent.
It makes sense, to be honest.
And they put so much money into them, so the functionality is awesome for a lot of them. You have a really good user experience, and they're really well thought out. And a lot of times, some of the interaction that you can get on an app, you can't quite get that much on a mobile web. Like CNN, for example, I can watch live TV streaming from my iPad on the CNN app. I can't do that on the mobile website. So there are some drawbacks to having the mobile web. For news, though, right now I pretty much just use apps. The Daily's a really good one. They put a ton of money into it, so it's definitely worth checking out. CNN has a really good one.
And you're paying a ton to use it, too.
I know.
99 cents a week isn't a ton for me.
Okay.
Well, I know.
Still, compared to a lot of other news apps, that's
Yeah,
still...
and it's interesting to think about. So like, for me, spending money on apps, I'm really liberal about it. I just like buying apps. And Amanda's the opposite.
I'm really not. I probably have like 4 apps on my phone, and believe me, I have a lot of
that are
apps on my
paid.
phone. Yeah, so I probably have like 4 apps that I paid for. Matt
I probably have like
convinced me on the
75%
way
of my
here
apps
to
are
buy an
paid
app.
for.
I mean, I'm a really tough sell. Like, I will read every comment, and like, if I'm gonna buy an app, like, it better be damn well worth it, because I'm just kind of like, I just don't want to pay for it if I'm not gonna ever use it. And so it's got to be something I'm gonna use, and especially when it comes to like news and stuff, I want to know that people actually use it and they go back to it.
So what are those 4 apps that you paid for that?
They're not necessarily news.
I'll tell you
apps.
one
That's
that
okay,
I'll
I'm
tell
just
you
saying,
one
what
that
are
she
they
downloaded.
I downloaded this app
The
that
Cinemagram?
Matt, it's called Cinemagram, and basically, it's so silly, but
It's
you can-
Instagram meets GIFs. So if you know what a GIF is, it's like a short video type thing.
It's really cool.
It's Instagram for GIFs. So you can put filters on it, and then you can isolate the area of the picture or the video that you want to move. So it's pretty cool. It's
It's called Cinemagram.
Cinemagram.
You need to
I also downloaded a French app that I paid for because it has. You make fun of me, but I took French when I was here, and I studied abroad in a French-speaking country, and then I realized I didn't know any French anymore, and so I was like, I should probably just like
get an application
polish up
for
on that a little bit. So I paid like $5 for this app, but it's actually really fun, and I like it.
It's pretty dorky.
It's okay. That might be the only ones I've got on here. I have the Netflix app and I have a subscription to Netflix, but I never use it on my phone.
But
Those
that's
actually
free,
might
though.
be the only 2.
Yeah,
the
it's
Netflix app is
Netflix.
free. I just have a subscription.
Cinemagram costs like $1.99, I think. Worth every penny.
It's worth it.
That's worth it.
Did you get? You just got
Those are
it?
really the only ones I have that are paid. But all the other apps I have, I love, and they were free. So, if I had an iPad, it might be a little different, because the paid apps on the iPad, I feel like, are more of an investment and something I would use all the time. So,
We just got that one back here. Oh yeah.
Cinemagram.
Oh yeah.
Alright, don't give us though, please.
No.
Oh, you can create.
That's probably not a good use of that app.
What's up?
I was curious, what kind of coding experience have you both had to come into the marketing realm with?
Very limited.
So,
we have an IT team specifically for the mobile division, and then a lot of the work, if we're getting to the point now where we're kind of saturated, so anytime we bring in new business, a lot of times we have to outsource it. So we use a lot of really cool vendors. The Nerdery is one that's up in Minneapolis. We utilize them a lot, and they're like a 500-person company, 485 which are developers, and they just specify, very specifically
in very specific
different
technologies. And another kind of point to make there is, a lot of the campaigns we work on, our clients spend a lot of money, so they don't want someone who isn't literally an expert and can do it right the very first time and not have any questions, and it's not going to break the day of launch.
Right.
So obviously we would never be. I would never touch that code. I do some HTML stuff. I can get a little dangerous, but
But it also is something that even our head
It's
of
good to have an
IT,
ID.
there's times when sometimes he's really good at everything, but there's sometimes when, if there's an HTML5 thing, maybe he's not the best at HTML5, and our clients want the best. Victoria's Secret isn't going to settle for an okay HTML5 program, so that's when we go to someone who only does that language.
Too, so. The other thing too is a lot of times it's really new technologies that we're looking at and implementing. So I've been spending a lot of time recently looking at augmented reality and image recognition technologies and vendors, and scheduling meetings with companies all over the world. So Amsterdam, London, and France, trying to get the best of the best to come talk to us, and those would be the people we would be hiring. Because if you're looking at a program that's going to spend $5 million, they're willing to pay to have the best. So. That's one of the differences between working when you're in college and getting that knowledge is really important, and having the exposure to it at least, because at least for our jobs, we do have to interface with developers, so to be able to speak the same language and at least have a conversation about problems they're having or deliverables that they need from us. That's important, and to understand at least what they're talking about.
Right.
Now, for me to be able to go in and read every line of their code and fact check them and make sure they're correct. No. We'll know if it works or not.
But being able to speak their language, so having that basic understanding is really important.
Where do you learn that? From a Stratcom or a conversion side? Where do you learn how to interface with?
So for me, I didn't learn it in any classes. I learned it in the student competition. So I was working one-on-one with IT students, and we were, our whole idea for our team was that we were going to learn from our IT students, and they were going to learn from us. So we taught them project management skills, presentation skills, that type of thing. And they were very much about us kind of getting into the code, being familiar with it, understanding the terms that they use. So
Yeah,
That's
I
why
mean,
I
I did the competition 2 years in a row. I think that's really important too. But also, I mean, I think just for everybody, because not everyone here has done the competition or is going to do it, or is graduating soon and can't. It's just about initiative. And so if you know that you want to do something and you know that having that exposure is something that's critical and something that will be a benefit to you, look for ways to get that exposure, right? So, I mean, everyone here talks about, you know, the IT side of things and having that exposure and at least understanding what's going on when someone talks about an API even. If you know if you hear those buzzwords thrown around, you're like, what the hell does that mean? I don't know what that is. I have never heard that before. Like, take the initiative to Google it, or take the initiative to take advantage of the free classes on campus. I mean, it's not always just the competitions or, you know, the stuff that gets talked about a lot. Sometimes it's just your own initiative that really helps out in the end.
Mhm.
Or trying to get on a project that, you know, uses those skills.